Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video I'm going to be explaining why the United Kingdom should not hold a second referendum on membership of the European Union. There was a referendum in June 2016 about whether the UK should remain a member of the EU or leave, and as you probably know, 52% of people voted to leave the EU. Well, it had a seismic effect, and the pound lost some value. There was consternation amongst Europhiles. The EU was quite dispirited. But anyway, people have adjusted to it. There were all these jeremiads about what would happen. There were dark warnings of doom if the United Kingdom was to leave the European Union. And none of it's happened. The economy's been growing steadily. Unemployment is low. A lot of the corporations which vowed to leave the United Kingdom have not done so. So many Europhile lies have been exposed. It was incredible that the United Kingdom actually held this vote. It was a Herculean task to get the UK to do it, because previous leaders of all political parties had ruled it out. Absolutely not. There was a possibility of the United Kingdom getting rid of the pound sterling and joining the euro. And the referendum party in the late 90s twisted the arms of the political leaders, and so all three parties agreed that they would hold a referendum if they proposed scrapping the pound and adopting the euro as the United Kingdom's currency. In the end, there was no attempt to join the euro, so that was that. So we've got Sir James Goldsmith's referendum party to thank for that. Then along came a party called the UK Independence Party, founded in 1993, but not significant until after the millennium. And that showed the groundswell of support for Euroscepticism for pulling out of the European Union. David Cameron was Conservative leader and Prime Minister, so he was running scared. UKIP was eating into his vote significantly. He had promised a referendum on, the Treaty of Lisbon. He promised that going into the 2009 European elections. As soon as he was elected, he shamelessly reneged on that promise. And William Hague, his Foreign Secretary, who posed as a Eurosceptic some years earlier, was there nodding with him. And it was dispiriting to see the way people who are outright charlatans and liars get away with it in politics. We say we don't like liars, but we keep voting for them. Liars of all political parties. So telling the truth is very unpopular. People hate the truth a lot of the time. Anyway, Cameron in his 2015 general election campaign vowed that if he was re-elected, he would hold a vote on the membership of the European Union. And I was astonished that he actually honoured his promise. I suppose he's thinking it would kill the issue, it would be the death knell of UKIP and so forth. So he did hold this. Vote, and he narrowly lost it. The polls showed the Europhiles about 4% ahead. In fact, about 4% behind. Won't go into why the psephology was a little bit out. But the Remain side had many massive advantages. They had a high majority of the politicians behind them. They had almost every newspaper on their side. They had corporations and all sorts of so-called experts coming out on their side. The government misused taxpayers' money to fund the Remain campaign and all that. Despite these many huge advantages, they still lost. So it was a magnificent result for people who refused to be cowed by EU propaganda, scaremongering, and so many stinking lies. It's said that lies were told on the Eurosceptic side as well, and that may be true about how much money the United Kingdom paid to the European Union. I don't know the exact figure, and it wouldn't make any difference to me if the figure was a bit lower or a bit higher, or even if it was a lot higher or a lot lower. The fundamental point remains that the EU is bad for so many reasons. Anyway, shan't get mired in that right now. So the losers cannot accept it, and they called for a second poll because they don't like the result. They feel it's jeopardising the future of the youth. Well, that's true. I feel it'd be ruining the future of young people if the United Kingdom were to stay in the European Union, but the decision's been made, and that's it. Had it gone the other way, I don't think we would have had a sniff of another referendum ever again. In 1975, the United Kingdom held a post-factum poll on joining the European Economic Community, should the UK stay in or out. And yet again, the same tricks were tried. Well, sorry, the first time round, the tricks were tried. Misappropriation of public funds to help the Europhile side. That's not in contention. Nobody disputes that. these dark warnings of what would happen if the UK left and all the rest of it. Had I been around in 1975, I would have voted to stay in the European Economic Community. The EEC and the EU are not quite the same thing. Now, one has metamorphosed into the other. But the Europhile side had all the advantages in 1975, and they won about 66% of the vote. The Liberal Democrats, they now want a second poll on leaving the European Union. See what the deal is with the European Union, and then put that to the people, hoping having a second bite of the cherry that they will get to stay in. And I met Lord Reynard, that Liberal Democrat peer, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "We'll have that poll, then no more referenda." Why on that issue and never again? Let's not have them again at all then. Why a second one? It's because they can't accept that they lost, despite their many huge advantages. International treaties put to a poll. I've never heard of that happening in the UK before. Europhiles were dead against referenda for decades. Now, I'm not totally against another referendum, but I think there should be a decent interval, a generational pause, 41 years from one poll to another. Now, I agree, it wasn't exactly the same question. 1975 and 2016 were different situations. The EEC and the European Union are quite different, but nevertheless, there is a common thread there. Look at Scotland in 1979, 1997, and then 2014. Scotland voted on her relationship with the rest of the United Kingdom. So there was a common theme there. However, the proposed model for devolution was different, or total separation at the end. So some people say we mustn't have referendum because it somehow undermines parliamentary democracy. Complete bunkum. Look at the Irish Republic, where I come from. Every time a change to the constitution is proposed, we must have a referendum, which I think is absolutely right. And no, it doesn't enfeeble our democracy whatsoever. And people say, oh, it's a dictator's trick. Hitler used to do it, which is drivel. He did all sorts of things, include painted watercolours. This reductio ad Hitlerum is the most moronic excuse for an argument ever. He massively cheated in referenda, which is no reason one shouldn't have fair referenda. Incidentally, this is one of the reasons why Germany doesn't have referenda ever these days. So I remember in the 90s, this proposed referendum on joining the euro, some people were saying, no, we shouldn't have that because that's why we have a parliament. We have wise and clever people to be in there. Well, there's no reason to believe that parliament is a brain's trust. They're elected on the basis of their party's manifesto, sometimes as them as an individual, not on the basis of intelligence, and much less that they're wise. So I think on crucial constitutional questions, things which are meant to have a multi-generational impact, referenda are apposite. And I don't believe it undermines parliamentary government in the least, especially when there's an elite consensus, whereas the common people tend to think the other thing. So I say no referendum on this one. All the EU treaties, they weren't put to referenda. Why this one? Now, as I say, I wouldn't be completely opposed to revisiting the whole issue in 20 or 30 years' time. We're leaving the European Union forever, we're told. What does forever mean in politics? Nobody knows. As Bagehot wrote in his English constitution, no parliament can bind her successors. So the parliament elected last time could decide on whatever law, but parliaments elected in future may choose to change that law back. So we really don't know what the situation holds. So those are some of the reasons why a second EU referendum should not be held. We're always told uncertainty is damaging the market. So I say hurry up and do it. If it's done been quickly, the United Kingdom would have been out by now, the situation would have been sorted out, we would know what's what. Yet more delay is bad news. So people are calling for a second referendum simply because they refuse to accept that they lost, that this is the situation, make the best of it. Because had the Europhiles won, I suppose that would have killed the issue. And it wouldn't have been the status quo, which is what some of the Remainers pretend. It would have been much deeper integration. It would have been demand for far more money. It would have been about allowing more countries into the European Union, such as Albania. Now, not anti-Albanian, but there are also some reasons why Albania shouldn't be allowed in yet. It's not prosperous enough. Rule of law and so on is not sufficiently good. And that's why a second referendum on the EU should not be held, and indeed will not be held. There's no suggestion Theresa May's government wants to do it. I don't think there's much appetite, even amongst Labour. A few Europhile fanatics want it, and a few foam-flecked Liberal Democrat Euro extremists want it as well. But the great majority of the public are fed up with this issue, and they want it put to bed.